nothing like our fathers.
Shut the f*** up! Shut up!
Really think about it.
Power is very addictive. It corrupts the soul, becomes obsessive, but by the very nature of the pursuit of it, it pushes everything else away.
I was asked and hired to be the face of the marketing by Sky, Atlantic and LadBible of the new season 2 of Gangs of London. Let's go into episodes 5 to 9 now. Have a look at the characters, the plots, the cinematography, the realism, and let's just see how authentic it all really is. This is a really heavy scene, and they bring in the Danish Special Forces here, which is a bit far-fetched. But then the scheme of things in this script and the way they've developed it, it plays a really clever role showing the mercenary gun for hire, but from the investor's side, at how the real high-end, as it says in Gangs of London, richest people in the world are trying to wash their money. Of course, it's very special forces with explosive shaped charges and all that, and the way they approach a target. It's quite far-fetched as part of it, to be honest. But what I think is really authentic is the people, the associates of Kenny Edwards, who's the top main traveller from Wales, and of course he's trying to get his son abroad to try and save him from the backlash of the Wallace family. I knew people, and it's very, very authentic. You know, the way they was making their bullet rounds and putting together an armory and stuff like that. I've seen kind of places like this, and that would be a real example of people that are absolutely everywhere making ammunitions and other stuff like that, armouring people in the UK today. I mean, this scene in Gangs of London is just complete mayhem, bloodthirsty. This is pretty much for the entertainment value. I love the way he comes with the hand grenades at the end and really gets over that, to throw that out. And what I think is masterful about this scene is it shows the migration of Kenny and his son, of course, who started the first story arc in this narrative and pushed the whole script forward. And it shows the dynamic in a father and son in this kind of world, and how they are stuck together, propelled together by their actions, and of course, unfortunately, in this scene, their choices, they actually die together.
Is the death toll and violence in the show true to what it's like in real life, or is it a dramatised attempt at exaggeration?
There's a lot of drama and entertainment elements in there to drive the script, of course, but apart from that, the violence can be more or less. I mean, all I have to say is you think about a drugs war, even the mafia war back in the 80s, or modern wars. There are a lot of deaths, unfortunately. A lot of people die in a lot of terrible ways. So in that sense, this is what organised crime brings, and it's very authentic. Mosey's a great example of a character too, a Nigerian gangster, really high up the chain. Of course, they have a different way of doing things over here, and someone's taken his money, so he's come to rectify that. This scene is very bloodthirsty again, and of course they've gone into the investment house, the investment bank, and them kind of places they're moving money. It is figures. They don't have actual money. This scene, although not realistic, the people behind and characters like Mosey in the world are indeed very realistic. On the subject of power within organised crime groups or families, especially driven by so much money and in the drug trade, if one person thinks they can get away with it, then they'll be lining up and everyone will think they will get away with it. And this is the mindset within these groups and why violence is so explosive for the smallest thing at any place, at any time, to anyone.
Please, 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 no.
You know, and of course this guy he wouldn't know anything, he's just moving numbers. And the use of their hands, I think, was clever, because it goes back to a lot of African countries where there was a lot of genocide who used this kind of brutality.
In real life, how would gangs have dealt with troubles they had with investment banks?
They would have probably killed someone, you know, to send a message, to make sure the others follow suit and they get their money back, or they may have kidnapped someone for ransom and use that for leverage. What I saw in gangs in London in that way wouldn't have happened like that.
Do you think the cutting off the hands thing worked as a message, as that's what they used to do to thieves?
I can see how they scripted that in London, of course. That wouldn't be good for business or for them to get their money back. But there are elements of it, of course, that they've borrowed from, you know, some of the atrocities in Rwanda and stuff like that. So these things are unfortunately part of our history.
I walk. You said I walk.
I think that this scene encapsulates the very best of both of these characters, both Mosey and Luan, as they kind of face off here over the deal that they've had about this money, and of course it's disappeared. But it just goes to show you that Mosey has used the other guy to lure Luan there, but he has there's no way he's letting this other guy go either as a witness. He's going to be killed also. This is this life and what goes on in this life. But it just goes to show, as this scene, as bloodthirsty and brutal as it is, it shows how violence can really turn within this situation. Because as Luan's family and his own children is threatened, he suddenly finds the strength and sees the red, that murderous rage that kills all these people that are outnumbering him in this place. And I have to say of this scene as well, there's a real undercurrent and a real lesson here for those who think that organised crime or the life is glamorous, that the people involved in this life, they have no compunction about sacrificing you or your family to get what they want. And I think this scene encapsulates that in a very terrifying but brutal way in Gangs of London Season 1.
Your wife says she'll be with you in 10 minutes. It's a shame the children are not with her.
And it shows you of this scene because Luan is a very, very serious guy. And any gang bosses like this, they come up the hard way. And they come up by taking out their rivals and strategy and being really clever and using power and money and positioning. This is the only way. And of course, it's in him. So he really loses it here about his family. And that would bring that up in a person in this kind of situation. So although people may think that this scene is actually far-fetched, there is another side to this. And I think that this scene is very authentic in many ways. Luan against all of that, behind that, he's still a human being haunted by his own demons and his own dreams and wishes and fears. And this really affects him, like it does everyone through a life like this.
We're nothing like our fathers, Alex.
It doesn't matter now, does it?
At the end of Gangs of London, season 1, everything is pulled together in this masterfully scripted scene where the Demanis, as I have said, in other parts of this video, show me the great man who's the son of a great man, and how there's no loyalty in this life. And even people who have come up together and built everything, there is a point where even they can't save each other from what is coming. This is portrayed beautifully in this scene, and this is the face-off now between Damani, who has been double dealing behind his family's back, Sean Wallace, and of course we have Elliot in the mix. I think the twist here is absolutely masterful. You don't see it coming, and this is a fantastic finish.
You took that away from me. You have a choice. You're the smartest person in the room.
Another thing that I really like about Gangs of London season 1 is the development of Sean Wallace as a character. Being the son of Finn Wallace and having to navigate his way through that life, but then he finds the redemption and he actually sees through the life when it's all against him and it's pretty much too late and everything is crumbling around him and he's losing everything. At this time, this is where he sees sense, and he tries in some kind of way to right the wrongs of the past. And of course, by this point, for Sean Wallace, it's too late.
Shut the f*** up! Shut up!
We started together.
Watching this emotive scene, it kind of brings up some stuff I have to say as an afterthought, because I've been in some kind of similar situation where there's been a big kind of showdown with this, with people who I've really come all the way through with back in the old life. This is very, very authentic, because there's always that love there, and really what it's about is that, hey, no matter what's going on, we need to join forces and turn against the common threat. And even though they have their troubles and it can go either way here, this is the way Sean and Damani have gone with their history. But of course, this takes a real turn. It's quite authentic, and I love the emotion in this scene at the end of Gangs of London. The moment has passed here for them too. Like I would imagine it would in real life. But Elliot has another agenda, and he's already been pushed by other forces. And we see what happens here at the end of Gangs of London, season 1.
A major theme of this show is betrayal. How often would best friends turn against each other in this life?
All too often. Betrayal is very much a part of this life. The treachery is always there, and the higher up you go, I told you what is the difference. It's not that you've come all the way through it together, but with the money, the power, the loyalties and the drivers behind that, when you're dealing internationally with other gangs, there are only so far you would be able to go to save the people around you, and the whole dynamic can twist.
The Wallace family have the Irish connection, which is very similar to your own heritage. Does that make the story feel even more personal to you?
In many ways, yeah, because I can feel the backstory, and I can see the family connection and really feel how that translates.
Was the Irish aspect of the show true to reality?
I think they've done a masterful job in many ways. Irish families, clans, they stick together like other kind of people, all right? You know, the Italians, the Albanians and all that. And this is reflected throughout Gangs of London in a clever way.
It's a very evil life, it has to be said. Not to say that all the people in it are evil. One of the paradoxes is some are really, really talented. It's that they're caught in the darkness of this life and they can't get out of it.
I have to say, guys, I was really privileged and really happy to be picked by Sky Atlantic and LadBible to be the face of the marketing for season 2 of Gangs of London. It's a masterful series that brings a lot of stuff up. It's very violent, it's very brutal. It's a hit series and we can see why. I'm really excited now by season 2 out there. How do I rate season 1 of Gangs of London? I'd give it a 9.5. My name's Stephen Gillen. Glad you're loving the content. Of course, I have a story of my own. If you want to know more, go below, have a look, click some of the links. There's a lot of really cool stuff in there. And don't forget, guys, look after yourself, take care, and be lucky.